Afternoon, everybody. So I think we'll get started with the webinar now. So I just wanted to introduce myself. So my name is Maria Foskett. I'm the ISV Partner Marketing Manager for Sage. So thank you for joining us today for a webinar that we're hosting with Sage Data and Analytics. Today we're going to be looking at how we can help you support your customers combine their data sources for you to provide easier, quicker and more accurate reporting. And before I hand over to SDNA today, I just want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded. It will be distributed afterwards, and we will be answering questions at the end of the session. But obviously, as we're going through the presentation, please feel free to pop them into the chat window as you think of them. I'll then read them out during the Q&A at the end. Okay, so I think that's housekeeping done. I'd like to now introduce you to Salam, who's the head of pre-sales for SDNA, who's going to be your host for this afternoon's webinar. Over to you, Salam.
Thank you so much, Maria. Just a little bit of housekeeping on my side. You're able to see my screen?
Yes, we are, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's keeping safe. And today is really giving you a gist of what SDA offers out to you and your business. So I'm going to keep this very high level and also go into some little details here and there that's really kind of add some value on how we can really change the game in terms of adding real important time to driving value into your business, where you're not worried about all the kind of data headaches and the reporting headaches and the all unhidden or hidden costs of when trying to create manual processes for your reporting, whether it's from business or whether it's the business operations side or financials, etc. So with that, let's go into what we will be kind of showcasing for you today. The first thing is, when it comes to the basics of freeing up your problems when it comes to manual processes, is you want to be able to take all of that, all of those manual processes, modeling, etc., building out reports into 3 easy steps. Those steps are about, number 1, how do we make sure when we do our modeling experience, we make things really easy in terms of making sure we follow best practices, everything created, whether it's operational reports or sales reports, are not just done on an ad hoc basis, but there's a real strategy behind it to drive real effective behavior behind that modeling experience. All that data is being kind of cleaned up and presented in a way that everyone can make some real valuable insights. But the insights part of it is being able to say, okay, well, now we've taken care of all of those data problems, all of those manual processes. What do I need to be able to get to really create value? And those are the insights area of the reporting aspects. So things like financials, things like sales reporting from top down, from commercial directors all the way down to maybe sales reps. Maybe if your business runs an inventory section, you want to be able to know what's ingoing and outgoing. Some of those key aspects, but also key KPIs, key metrics that are so difficult for you to get. You're just wasting so much valuable time just to be able to get 1 or 2 of those metrics. So when you've got that insight level, what's important there is that's not just it. You can't just have these reports saying these are the numbers and that's it, great. You want to be able to create behavioral changes from those insights. So in terms of behavioral changes, what we mean by that is, if I've given you a P&L, great. But what does that mean? Why can't I try and give you insights on how your P&L looks over time? So you're seeing the performance of your high level from sales, from your sales or revenue, all the way to EBITDA percentage, EBIT, or whatever that looks like over time. So you're really getting a view of how your company is performing over a period of time, whether it's company against company, maybe it's looking at sites versus sites, and so on and so forth. So that gives you some key valuable information to start going into, say, for argument's sake, like we were talking about P&L, to the account holders within those areas of the P&L. So, for instance, operating costs, and then going to those related people or relevant people and saying, these are the areas that you've got to change. That's how you incite change. That's how you create change. But you can only do that if you have the first two sections. Now, the first two sections are built up with some challenges around them. And let me highlight what those challenges are. And some of you may already know those challenges. Those challenges is, first and foremost, there are way too many multiple versions of the single truth. And then in terms of creating a calculation, so for argument's sake, anyone who is sales on the call, you want to look at what cost of sales are, but maybe finance have a completely different interpretation of what cost of sales is. So there's a lot of ad hoc building around those kind of calculations. From that, with other calculations such as delivery metrics, so if you're a manufacturing shop or you are looking at sales order performance and how well you're delivering in terms of distribution, you want to be able to dictate the same calculations as the other departments or the other sites on what is on time or what's full delivery, what's the perfect order index for manufacturing, what's planned versus actuals, what's the overall efficiency from that. And then further to that, we then have a lack of system knowledge. So we may have users that when building out models may understand one system really well, and in this case, Sage X3, but you may have some legacy systems like AX or Cispro, to name a few, that you don't have the knowledge for, and that it becomes very difficult to be able to pull that information into a standard single source of truth model for your end users to use for essentially that reporting, for reporting purposes. Also, something that's not really talked about much is around data availability. This is essentially being able to get data that's always up to date, maybe processed on a more real-time or near real-time basis, where it's really important, say for argument's sake, your production team or your inventory team, to be able to see what's going in and out on a more hourly basis than rather than a daily basis. These are the kind of things that are going to really slow you down if you're not going to be able to get some of that data in on a timely basis. Further to that, the ability to go and granularize a report or to go down right to a granular report. Let me give an example that we had with some customers recently. Their ability to be able to have a dynamic financials was our bread and butter. We got that up and ready in no time. But their main problem and their main challenge was the ability of drilling through onto, say, for argument's sake, their operating expenses, travel, for instance, and then looking at the underlying journal and then going back into their system to see what that journal actually was, what was posted, who posted it, etc., etc. That granularity is key, and is key for all the users out there that we work with day in, day out in terms of customers. And that frees an incredible amount of time. So for instance, we've got one customer that had in their old lives an ability to look at their Excel reports without the ability of drilling down. So they had to go into the system, check the account code, then go and see the journal, then go to the specific date. And that alone took them 15 minutes. To think about it, that alone 15 minutes, that compiled every day where they needed to look at hundreds of different accounts. We automated that to make that life a lot more simple. And that's essentially one small example when it comes to the need for granularity. Legacy data. Some of you, as I said before, may have old ERPs or may have other systems that are old that you just want to be able to pull, maybe for an audit perspective or maybe for a kind of trend analysis where you're looking at pulling data through. Security is one of those that are really undervalued, especially things for the more IT folk out there on the webinar want to be able to not have to replicate and duplicate different things for different users. You want to be able to have dynamic security. So with your modeling experience, people are able to instantly access the data that you've got, but only see the data that they have the rights to see. But ultimately, what this comes down to, and what we've seen again and again and again with customers, is everything is ad hoc. There's no overall strategy and plan to build out a real strategy, data modeling and BI strategy for your reporting needs to essentially take care of that overall goal to reduce the manual processing that's going on behind the scenes. So let's give you an idea of what SDA does to kind of target that. And what we'll do is we'll specifically look at the world of X3. So if we look at this, what SDA does, it does what we call the smart modeling aspect. The smart modeling, taking care of modules such as finance, AR, AP, obviously for X3 in this case, sales, so orders and invoices, whether they are headers or transactions, manufacturing and inventory. So if you've got that in your world, we obviously automate that and produce all those key KPIs, things that may have not even thought that you could have. So things like sales versus inventory analysis. In the manufacturing world, understanding your tracking orders over time. Maybe looking at the underlying planned versus actuals of particular work orders, how they're broken up by subcontractors, resourcing internally, and machine. Then looking at purchasing. In purchasing, you've got the reciprocal view of account payables. So with purchasing, we're looking at more PPV, those types of calculations. What's the purchase cost per invoice, purchase cost per dollar, whatever that could be. And then looking at other areas which is significantly undervalued when building out and understanding where all of that manual processing and all that time has been taken up. And that is when you're starting to look at your primary system with additional customizations and other data sources. So why do for SDA, and what SDA does is it considers this specifically for X3 and other solutions that we'll go through a little bit later on today. We call that our smart solution. A lot of people in the industry use names like smart connectors. This is not a smart connector. It's a smart solution, because what we're trying to do is go back to the ultimate point of removing any manual need to intervene when it comes to all your data. So allowing you to really creativity and behavioral changes within your business. So how does this all get done? How do we essentially get to this result? This result is done in the following steps. I'm going to avoid giving you any smokes and mirrors here, but give you a direct answer on if you do have X3 and you want this ability to get some of this ready and up and ready in your world. These are the steps that you would do with using the application SDA. The first step is we would connect, in your case, Sage X3. And then from there, when we would connect to your Sage X3, we would automatically deploy the model, i.e. the number one part that we were talking about as a key goal of this webinar, and then build out those insights, which is number two, those pre-built analytics. And then from there, once that's done, you have your first draft complete. Now, how long does this take? Is this really something that we can do automatically? We make the claim that we can do this. And on average, when it comes to creating that first draft, as soon as we connect to your X3, we can get that up and ready so you can start getting real insight to your business and start making, hopefully, those kind of different behavioral changes that you've needed for a while in less than a few hours. And with that, what does the analytics, that second goal of what we talked about on the webinar, produce for you? Ultimately, it produces what we say is as on average, because it depends on the modules that you have. So you may not use inventory, for argument's sake, but may have manufacturing. What we produce for X3 users and for the X3 solution is 300 plus pre-built dashboards, reports, and other different types of analytics. How is that broken down? First and foremost, it's broken down in different segments like we talked about before. So I'm going to give you a highlight of a few here. So in the finance world, we have the CFO dashboard. We have the income statement dashboard that we can remodel to show the layout of your income statement dashboard, the income statement. Accounts receivables, looking at overdue, what's current, what that looks like over time, providing a league table of your performance of your customers. And then accounts payable, so looking at vendor analysis, again, with the same view of accounts receivable, but more obviously applicable to our vendors. From that, how is that produced? The finance department, using the application, will first automatically map all of those charts of accounts. So the amount of headaches that you must go through where you want to automatically map new account codes will be removed. We would automate that by capturing using our charts of account feature that can automatically bucket all your new account codes in the appropriate sections of your P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow statement. From that, what essentially gets produced is obviously your P&L, balance sheet, cash flow statement that can be produced in any shape or way, whether it's monthly analysis, closing date, closing balances, opening balances, periods, however you want to look at it, it's completely up to you. Now, uniquely within X3, there are areas like financial dimensions such as cost centers, eliminations, investment areas. We pull those all through automatically. From that, the usual task that we do with customers is once we've got that up and ready, we would replicate their financial reports and automate board packs. All of that done on one platform, SDA. So with that, it takes you to another area, i.e. sales. Sales is similar hierarchy in terms of the different areas, but in this case, we've got the sales director. From the sales director, you're looking down at the sales manager. So you can see there's a little bit more information produced on these, all the way to our sales order. You may have a customer delivery manager, maybe a sales delivery manager that will take care of orders that have been achieved and how we've been achieving those in this quarter, last quarter, and what the delivery stats look overall. From that, what we've also got are other areas like inventory and manufacturing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly show you one more section, inventory and manufacturing, and then we're going to go and jump and start looking at some of these as well. So from here, if I go and say, look, for the inventory sales, we've got some key breakdowns that you want to be able to do on your reports. So looking at categories like sites, maybe you want to break down, regions, customers, sales reps, and so on and so forth. You can obviously take care of all those revenue valuations from your sales invoices rather than your GL. But if some of you do your sales analysis using your GL side of X3, we can also switch that off. This is to emphasize it, it's all about configuration, not development. You have to go and get a SQL expert or a scripting expert to do this. All you need to do is a keen advocate of your business that knows your business pretty well to be able to use the product. From there, we are looking at things like customer statistics as well as delivery performance, sales trends and forecasts. Now, on a side note, when it comes to forecasts and budgets, if you're holding your budgets outside of X3, it doesn't matter. We can pull that through into a unified model for your company so you can do that analysis between your system and the budgets and forecasts that you've got. And then still, like with finance, the ability to drill through into your system right down to the granular level, i.e. the order or the invoice itself, to go back into the ERP, in your case, X3. Further to this, in the inventory and manufacturing section, we've got two main dashboards. In the inventory side, we've got critical inventory management KPIs that have been highlighted again and again with our customers is really important to them. So looking at analysis around inventory turn, valuation, what's on hand, etc. Quantity analysis, whether it's issued valuation or on hand, inventory movements over time, so we can see what's ingoing and outgoing, inventory versus sales that we talked about before, and then ultimately the normal common reports within inventory, which is the aging analysis and the slowly aging analysis of our products that we're selling. Finally, on the manufacturing side of things, we've got really awesome analytics around that, especially for some of our key customers that we've got using this application, where they're looking at things like order statuses and fulfillment, what we talked about before, planned versus actual, what the production looks like over time, what's i.e. pending, what's in progress, what's completed, and so on and so forth. Consumption analysis, we're looking at orders late and early, etc., etc. The last piece, though, which I got there, which was the procurement side of things, we've got the purchasing manager dashboard as well as the supplier manager dashboard. Remember, these dashboards just need to give you the right information to make decisions. Now, in procurement, for instance, the purchasing KPIs will cover areas like spending stats, things like goods received but not yet invoiced. What's the cost efficiency KPIs in regards to procurement costs per spend? What's the delivery performance of our vendors? What's the return and quality order status against our? These are the statistics that allow us to really negotiate really strong contracts with our vendors. So with that, let's go into the product so you can see what that actually looks like. So I'm just going to jump into our product here. Give me 2 seconds now. And you can see I've instantly come into the world of finance. You can see my URL. This is a secured website, web application that you can either use on-premise, private cloud, or public cloud. So let me just go into full screen mode. Why? Because if you want to use the application on a tablet or a mobile device, this is the experience that you would have. You can see that we've got all these different slices across the top. Let me just refresh this. We have all the different slices on the top by company. I can look at it in a unified view, or maybe I want to select a few companies, or even search a company with NA in the name. And now I'll pull that up for me. From here, I can see different sites within NA, so it's cascading slices. You can change and look at different snapshots of time. You can choose different ledgers if you have different ledgers, but these are all just pre-built slices. If there's other slices you want to break it down by, maybe financial dimensions, like cost center, etc., you can do so. You can just throw it on there and remove whatever you don't want. But across the top, we've got what we call our performance cards. So we're looking at P&L information here, cash, and then balance sheet. If I hover over any of these, you can see each one gives me a full description of what that calculation is. I'll leave it up there for a little bit so you can see how it's been calculated. If you disagree with the calculation, you can change it. If you disagree with the description, again, you can change it. All of it's customizable. It is not a good use of your time if we can give you this head start, but not have the ability of modeling this and changing it into a customized version for your business. This is just giving you that head start. Now with that, if you look at the bottom here with our analytics, you can see it's a breakup of our performance cards across the top. So if you look at the P&L here, we've got our gross margin over time. Our gross margin over time here, if I hover over these, you can see a performance card will come up and tell me what those numbers are. I can double click on that to see when that was posted during the month. I can then drill back up and then open and go into another report. In this case, let's go into the income statement dashboard. Now, just a quick side note here. When it comes to your income statement dashboard, this is pre-built. But once we've got the layout of your business in terms of how it builds its income statement, that's it. You don't ever need to recreate it, duplicate it again. It's all done automatically. So all the account codes that you may have that take so much time to then recreate on all your Excel reports or your SQL reports, or whatever that is, all of it will automatically pull through on this report. And the other P&L reports that you may have, because people have different styles of P&Ls. In this case, we're showing off our month-to-date and year-to-date features, all drag and drop. Some customers have got it over periods of time. maybe quarter to date, month to date versus last year's month to date, etc., etc. And in this case, I want to be able to say, okay, well, this gross sales, what does that look like under the hood? So I'm going to double click onto that, and that gives me a breakdown of my accounts. I can have my journals in here, so I can have the hyperlink to go back into my X3, and we've got other information here. Now, this is the default report that you get as a drill down, but I may want to change this, which I can. And also, I may also want to be able to export this in PDF, CSV, Excel. Just to be clear, this is the same experience that you would have when it comes to using a tablet also. So if I come back out and we go to the income statement dashboard, we can also look at the analytics on the right-hand side here. Again, this will be dependent, this analysis, on the layout of your P&L. So we can see month to date, quarter to date, last year quarter to date, looking at our gross margin, our sales. We're looking at other items in our P&L by month to date and quarter to date, i.e. being actuals versus budget. What our operating profit looks over the months and what it looks like over quarters. Again, what we're trying to do is really show off the different abilities of slicing and dicing your data and creating different types of visualizations. So if anyone wants to see a different view, it's either there available, or the end user who wants to be able to create a new report, if you become a report writer, can easily throw up a new report and get it out there to the customer. To the end user. So from here, let's come back out into the CFO dashboard. We can see now that the CFO dashboard also allows me to go into other reports. So let's go to the VP sales or the sales director dashboard. So you can see the cross-departmental reporting that's going on here. From here, it's pulling through what I've filtered, but if I want to go back to the other filters, I can do so, and that won't affect me being able to look at my dashboard. We've got my performance cards. We've got actuals versus targets versus quarter to date, year to date. And then on the bottom here, we've got some analysis over time. So these two, analysis over time, so sales forecast and sales trends. But on here, we've got contribution margin analysis, meaning you can see this big ball here. This is a toy that's been sold. It's got a pretty low margin, but we've sold a lot of it in comparison to, say, our information technology items that have a much more significantly larger contribution margin, but we don't sell much of it, whether it's to do with sales or amounts. So from here, let's go back to the CFO dashboard. And what we'll do is we'll go into the other areas that we talked about. So you've got AR and AP. In this case, I'm going to right click onto AP, and you can see the two dashboards, the procurement side as well as the AP side. We'll click onto the AP side. And look, all of this is pre-built out of the box. You don't need to worry about spending 2 days just building out these calculations, like what's our open items and overdue and the average days overdue and what's current. This is all out of the box and ready to use. You can see here we've got it by overdues and top overdue vendors. And then what's current? On the bottom here, we've got average days to pay over time, and then the invoices behind the scenes there as well. But what happened to the old traditional way of looking at AP, which is the aging analysis? That's still available. I right click and I go into my accounts payable dashboard, and you can see this now produces that report that you may all be accustomed to. But what's pretty cool here is this is my accounts payable overdue by bucket, but it also tells me when this data was last processed. So I know that I've always got the most up-to-date information. And you can see here, we've got all of these items. Apple seems to be pretty high. So let's double click onto Apple, and that'll give me a breakdown of 2 areas that we've essentially done. It gives me the status, and I could put other information in there, like invoices, etc., etc. The last thing that I would quickly want to show before I move on and go back into my back into the slides is when we're using this user experience, and I talked about getting you up and ready, this is just the experience for the end user. For the modeling person, we use an area called the designer mode, and that goes back to those initial slides that I told you about, which is 1, 2, insight and modeling. So to quickly give you an idea for any technical people on the call, just very quickly, everything is point and click and drag and drop. when it comes to that 2-hour delivery of getting that first draft. I'm going to give you a quick insight and then we'll go back to our slides. That is, click onto new, you see all the features available, and then clicking onto model. Look what happens. On the model, this is now reading the SDNA site to be able to pull through all the data connections that I can have a connection to. And this will give me the list of all the data sources. Now, what's important here is that you may have a legacy system here, like AX, for instance, or other ERPs, maybe NAV or whatever it is, and you're just new onto X3. So all of these are smart solutions as well. So you can pull those through and unify those two data sources together. In this case with X3, you can see here, we can connect to this, producing pre-built analytics and the model. This is what we mean by this smart solution. These are the versions that we can connect to, but also you can see other names being there, so like Tableau. So for any of you that have already got investments in other products like Power BI or Tableau, SDNA has the ability of connecting, well, has a unique synergy with these products. So not only provide you the pre-built experience on SDNA for an analytics platform, but if you've already invested in an analytics platform but don't have any data management, you can use SDNA to connect to those products with pre-built content as well. So that gives you a quick whistle-stop tour of how the product works and why it's so valuable to get you up and ready with your first draft in 1 hour, within a few hours, and then produce those pre-built analytics that are ready out of the box. So with that said, we've covered off those first two key goals, which were the modeling experience and then finally the insight experience. The other aspects that we haven't talked about very quickly here are the other areas, such as the ability of adding customizations. So in this case, you may be in a position where you've got X3 and you've got those core modules, but you may have Z tables, X3 add-ons, other ISV modules, maybe a project module. All of that can be automatically pulled through into SDNA. However, there is other aspects that we come across very, very regularly. I mean, more or less every customer that we deal with, and that is having a mixed landscape of not just X3, but having other applications like CRM, AX, Cispro, maybe some Excel sheets, those being old legacy systems, and then wanting to pull all that information through and using Sage X3 as their primary system. SDNA will be able to pull all those through and get them into a unified data model. So with all of that at hand, you've got your model, you've got your pre-built analytics, you've customized those, brought in your customizations and unified the model. What does that essentially give you when it comes to behavioral change, the last piece of the puzzle? Number one, it allows all the main people in the business to get a bigger picture when it comes to understanding their department, their management, in terms of senior management, maybe at the executive committee level, to understand the overall view of how the company is performing. Ultimately, it's going to allow you to work smarter. So instead of thinking we've got these manual processes, you can start thinking about how you automate those manual processes using SDNA. SDNA is a platform that allows your users, whether they're the end users or whether they are the report writers, or maybe you're someone that would do the modeling. The requirement of highly skilled personnel is not required. You can literally pick up this solution and start learning it in no time, which ultimately means that with all of those put together and becoming more of a data-driven decision-making business, you will get that overall better performance. So before we go into kind of Q&As, I'll leave this on the last slide, which is all about our program, an initiative that we're doing for our Sage customers. Now, everyone knows the kind of things that we're going through right now, and that what we're seeing with the customers that we currently have and the customers that we are starting to acquire is that information and automating that information is their #1 priority. There is actually a lot of our customers are actually taking a no-nonsense approach and saying, you know what, it's just not funny anymore. We need to get this information up and ready, and we just can't afford to have any manual processes. That really kind of slows us down. From that, they also want the ability of getting all their information on a near real time or a regular basis. Now, what we're doing is welcoming customers to our Sage Do Good with Data campaign. Essentially, with this campaign, what we're doing is providing customers with a 60-day free access to the platform. Because I made a lot of claims on here. I've said that we can get you up and ready in 2 hours with a first draft and so on and so forth. There's a lot of big claims. So just to be clear, with that 60 days free, we're not charging for any installation or configuration. We'll give you complete access to plug and play with the product. And from our side, from the SDA side, we are providing you with 2 free days of some of our best consultants when it comes to implementing the product with you, as well as doing a little bit of mentoring to give you a little bit of guidance on the way. From that, during that period, you'll be able to have some access to, well, not some, access to our self-study materials and education, and also access to our support services. Now, we have one of our key sales executives that will deal with all those inquiries. I'll put his details on there for you to recall for you if you wish to reach out. But ultimately, that gives you an idea of, well, this is really a whistle-stop tour of how do we streamline all of those manual processes to allow you to free up that valuable time to do what you need to when it comes to being creative in your business. Now, at that, I'll leave it there, and I'll leave the floor to any questions that you may have. I've made a lot of big claims. I'm happy to answer any non-technical or technical questions that anyone feels to, and I'll hopefully give you a very concise and a direct answer.
Great, thanks, Salam. I've got a couple of questions, so I'll crack on, and then if anyone's got any others, please feel free to pop them into the chat window. So first question, do you connect with Power BI or other tools?
So when it comes to our application, we have the ability of connecting to a plethora of different solutions, from Power BI, Click, Tableau. In the experience of Power BI and Tableau, we have pre-built analytics. In Click, we have obviously a connection to that, and also an Excel add-in as well for anyone that wants to still do Excel pivot table reporting or any kind of reporting from ad hoc style reporting from Excel.
Great. Next question, how much training do I need for the application?
So when it comes to training, we've got our programs that get you up and ready in no time. So we've got our instructor-led courses that happens over a 3 to 4 day period. That gives you kind of the ability of getting certified using the product. But we've also got some awesome online material for you to be able to get ready to a pretty strong level, and that's all on demand and free to use as well.
Great, thank you. Next question, so what other sources of data can Zap connect to other than Sage X3, for example, which sort of CRM system, etc.?
So for argument's sake, if I just go back into, well, actually, let's go back into the application. You can see all the different types of data sources we can connect to. I'll leave that up there for everyone to kind of see. From there, we've got different accounting modules that we can connect to, and there are some more on the way. Collaboration tools like Jira, CRM, like what you were asking for, Maria, there, you can see that we connect to, say, Dynamics CRM, the old version as well as the newest version, which is D365 Sales. E-commerce items, so Google Analytics. Enrichment items, so maybe you're using Azure, or maybe you're using exchange rates from other products, open-ended exchange rates, and your traditional kind of connections, whether they are kind of JSON, CSV, SQL, etc. You have ERPs, so if you've got any legacy systems or you're currently using another ERP in parallel with X3, you can connect to those. I'll leave those just a little bit there for you to see. And then the others, so you've got HRM and other data sources as well. So that gives you an idea. So overall, we can connect to over, I think, 300 different types of data sources.
That's great, thank you. And then I've got one other question. So how often can you refresh your data in Sage Data and Analytics?
So that depends on your requirement. Now, I made it clear that I was not going to give you give you a clear and concise answer, so I'll do so by showing you on the product. So in this case, I'm going to my Sage X3 data model, and this is the administration mode of my model. If I want to process my model, say for argument's sake, once a day, and again, I made the claim that it's all point and click, so I'm going to click onto there. I'm going to rename this as a daily refresh. I'm going to select all my tables. I'm going to schedule that on a daily basis outside of work hours. However, in some instances, we have customers wanting more real-time or near real-time processing. So let's look at finance, for instance. In this case, the requirement is for us to do real-time processing for finance. So I'm going to just quickly type in there for finance. And then in this case, I'm going to only select all the tables that are to do with the finance world. So from here, the accounting entry lines and whatever else. Because I know that whenever they post something on the GL, they want to be able to see it on their report. So how do we do that? We schedule that in and we change daily to integral. And we say that we want to either process this, what I've selected for finance, every 1 minute, sub 1 minute, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. It really is dependent on what you as a customer would need. So that gives you an insight to the different ways that we can really process your data from real time all the way to just the more common request, which is daily, weekly, and monthly.
Great, thanks, Salam. I don't have any other questions in the chat, so unless anybody has anything now, I think we can finish the webinar.
Cool.
Yeah, no, nothing else. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining. Salam, thank you for your presentation. As I said, the link will be sent round to everybody afterwards, and then you can follow up directly. Okay. Thanks everybody for your time. We'll give you a little bit of time for your day back.
Thanks so much. Take care now.
Thank you. Bye.